we have carefully studied line by line. This is the government's most powerful tool to deliver the biggest growth and economic benefits for the Filipino people for next year. Makakasiguro po ang taong bayan na kami sa Department of Finance, lalo pa namin pagbubutihin ang aming trabaho para mapondohan ang mga proyekto at programa sa ilalim ng ating national budget. To put it into perspective, the 2025 national budget, as I said earlier, stands at 6.326 trillion, of which only 4.64 trillion are supportable by revenues. Ibig sabihin, sa susunod na taon, ang gastusin ng gobyerno ay aabot sa 17.3 billion kada araw, but only 1.72 billion per day will be financed by revenue collections every 24 hours. Kaya naman, sa laki po ng aming responsibilidad, 24 oras din magtatrabaho ang DOF para matugunan ang ating pangangailangan. At titiyakin namin na ang bawat sentimo ay mapupunta sa tamang proyekto at programa para sa bayan. Next year, we will strive to not just meet but exceed our revenue targets to generate more resources, just as our strong fiscal performance this year has demonstrated. I'm happy to announce that total revenue collections for 2024 is expected to reach 4.42 trillion, surpassing the full-year target of 4.27 trillion. As a percentage of GDP, the emerging revenues will climb to 16.7%, the highest in the last 27 years. And our emerging non-tax revenue for 2024 are expected to reach 606.6 billion, the highest ever recorded. These are all because of the hard work and contribution of the Bureau of Internal Revenue, the Bureau of Customs, the Bureau of the Treasury, our privatization team, and our GOCCs. So rest assured, we will work doubly hard to sustain this momentum and adhere to our medium-term fiscal program that reduces our deficit and debt gradually in a realistic manner while creating more jobs, increasing our people's incomes, and decreasing poverty in the process. And on behalf of the economic team, we assure you that from here on, things will just get better because we have a government that works non-stop to deliver the benefits that will keep us progressing as a nation every day. Maraming salamat po. Mabuhay ang bagong Pilipinas. Manigong bagong taon sa inyong lahat.
Thank you, Secretary Recto. May we ask Secretary Pangandaman?
Good morning. Hello. Good morning. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Happy New Year po sa ating lahat. Alhamdulillah at may budget na po tayo for 2025. First of all, we would like to thank our President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. for personally being on top of reviewing the bicameral committee's version of the budget. While the Congress's version was quite different from the proposed budget that we submitted, we are grateful and relieved that the President has made sure that we do not end up with a reenacted budget. As you know, the power of the purse is with the Congress because Congress is supposed to be the voice of the people. Hence, the Department of Budget and Management and even the President himself can only submit a proposed budget to Congress, and in the end, because we have a democratic process that we must follow and respect, we can only exercise what the Constitution provides, which is to veto certain items of the budget. After a careful review by the agencies concerned and with the guidance of our Executive Secretary, who is a former Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, the President ensured that the budget remained true to our constitutional mandates while exercising his veto power to ensure that the budget ultimately continues to be directed to meeting our agenda for prosperity. Nakikinig po ang ating Pangulo sa taong bayan. That is why, among others, ang program appropriations, which increased by over 300% in the BICAM version of the budget, have been greatly reduced by direct veto. There will also be a conditional implementation of Ayuda sa Kapos ang Kita program or AKAP. Let us enter the new year with renewed hope and determination to achieve the goals towards a bagong bagong Pilipinas that we all aspire for. On our end, patuloy lang po kaming magtatrabaho para sa mas magandang kinabukasan ng ating mga mamamayan at sa kaunlaran ng ating bayan. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Secretary Pangandaman. Secretary Balisacan.
Good morning, everyone. Let me express our gratitude to both chambers of Congress for their timely and diligent efforts in scrutinizing, formulating, and ensuring the passage of the 2025 General Appropriations Act. Their unwavering commitment to completing this critical task underscores the strength of our collective resolve in advancing the nation's development goals and President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.'s socio-economic agenda. The 2025 GAA supports the goals outlined in the Philippine Development Plan 2023 to 2028, including attaining our medium-term growth targets as approved by the Development Budget Coordination Committee. The budget prioritizes strategic investments in social services with substantial allocations to education, health, and social welfare programs and infrastructure projects to boost growth and inclusion, human capital development, and poverty reduction. In line with our commitment to public welfare and fiscal responsibility, the President, as we have heard this morning, has judiciously vetoed certain line items in the budget, implementing certain programs and projects, including requiring the issuance of guidelines and compliance with pertinent laws, policies, rules, and regulations. This decisive action demonstrates the administration's commitment to our fiscal program by ensuring that planned spending remains within the target deficit ceiling, keeping us on track to meet our medium-term fiscal targets. At the same time, by tightening the conditions for utilizing the budget for various programs, the President ensures that the maximum benefits reach those most deserving of social protection, particularly the near poor. This approach supports inclusive growth by ensuring that economic benefits reach the lower income segments of society, directly contributing to the PDP's goals of reducing poverty and improving the quality of life for our vulnerable populations. As we roll out these projects and programs in the coming year, close collaboration between the executive and legislative branches remains vital. The coming year, 2025, marks a pivotal moment for our country as we enter the midterm of the Marcos administration. This milestone is an opportune time to assess our progress. As we continuously recalibrate our strategies, we assure our fellow Filipinos that we will sustain our gains and accelerate our efforts in areas where we need to catch up to meet our development targets. GAA, we reaffirm our commitment to building a matatag, maginhawa at panatag na buhay for all Filipinos. Let us move forward with optimism and determination, ensuring that every peso of the national budget translates into impactful programs and services that improve the lives of our people. Thank you and good morning once again.
Thank you, Secretary Balisacan. May we ask Secretary Bonoan for his opening statement?
Good morning, everybody. Well, we just like to express how deeply we are honored for the full trust and confidence that the President, Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. and our legislators have extended to the Department of Public Works and Highways through the fiscal year 2025 budget. We are aware that every peso allocated to the Department of Public Works and Highways projects represents the hard-earned contributions of the Filipino people. It is therefore our responsibility to ensure that these funds are used wisely and efficiently, as well as professionally in the most transparent manner, proving ourselves deserving of the trust placed on us. We are committed to making every cent of their contributions worth by delivering quality infrastructure that drives the national progress. With this, We are tasked to implement more infrastructure projects that are crucial for the socio-economic development of our country. We are prepared to face potential challenges that may arise and remain steadfast in applying the significant lessons that we have learned over the years as we move forward to another year of service. Rest assured that the Department of Public Works and Highways will continue to work diligently in support of the Bagong Pilipinas agenda, advancing infrastructure that uplifts the lives of our fellow Filipinos. Mabuhay ang Bagong Pilipinas. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much, Secretary Bonoan. We are now opening the floor for questions from our Malacanang media friends. Pia Gutierrez, ABS-CBN.
Good morning po. May we ask ano po yung mga significant line item vetoes na ginawa ng Pangulo?
26 billion, roughly 26 billion under the Department of Public Works and Highways. Direct veto yon. Bawat isang project po tinanggal natin. Maybe I can ask Secretary Manny Bonoan to explain ano-anong klaseng mga proyekto ito.
Well, many of the projects that had been vetoed are actually some of the projects that we considered that are not totally supportive to the 8-point socio-economic agenda of the government, of this administration. And besides, I think many of these projects are projects that need to be scrutinized and ready for implementation. These are some of the projects are not ready for implementation at this point in time. So these are the projects that we have deferred up to.
And then there's 168 billion worth of projects that are in unprogram appropriations po. Inisa-isa po natin yan kasi nadagdagan po siya. When we did the NEP po, we see to it that yung UA natin, yung UA po kasi standby appropriation yan, di ba? Parang contingent fund. So generally, I mentioned this many times. Generally, ang contingent po or yung parang is just at least 5% of the total budget. Yan din po yung tinuro sa atin nung nagkaroon tayo ng consultation with IMF, World Bank. So during the NEP po, it's less than 5%. Napakaliit. It's 178 billion pesos. But nung naging po siya, nung napasa na po siya ng BICAM, nag-increase po siya ng 300%. So it's almost 10% of the total budget. So nung nakita po namin yon, binawasan po namin just to be consistent with the 5% yung parang standby fund. So now it's roughly 4.7% of the total budget.
Thank you. Next question, Ivan Mayrina, GMA7.
Can I ask, sa final version, magkano na ho ang budget ng education versus public works? Kasi isa ho ito sa mga pinupunto na posibleng constitutional infirmity ng budget.
Ang nasa, but maybe Executive Secretary can further expound later. Ang nakalagay po is not the department, hindi naman po nakalagay doon na dapat Department of Education. It's the sector. So I have here po the top 10 na pagkakasunod-sunod po kung yung sa pinakamataas na budget. Dito po makikita natin na una ang education pa rin po. Hinahanap ko lang. It's 1.053 trillion. Well, the DPWH po is 1.034 trillion po. Yan po. So, nauna na po ang education.
Secretary, may we get the breakdown do sa education po?
Yes, we will provide po. Ibigay po kami.
So, anong nangyari po, Secretary, we had to, so yung mga veto under DPWH, kaya umangat po relatively yung education sector budget.
Yes po, kasi nabawasan din po ng mga 26 billion yung DPWH budget.
Right, thank you.
Tristan Nodalo, Newswatch Plus.
Ay, hello, good morning po. Ma'am, you've mentioned yung conditional implementation of AKAP. So, ano pong nangyari doon sa pondo na AKAP na which was questioned before, yung 26 billion both sa House and Senate? So, ano po yung conditional implementation? What does it actually mean?
Yung AKAP po, it's still there. It's just that bago po natin ma-release yung pondo, we need to issue guidelines po together with DSWD, DOLE, and NEDA po para maging consistent yung pagbibigay ng AKAP dun po sa gusto nating mangyari dun sa tamang recipients, hindi po magka-doble-doble yung binibigay natin ng mga cash assistance. So, si Sec RC Balisacan po ang kasama na po ngayon sa pag-define nung paglabas nung pondo ng AKAP.
One follow-up lang po kay Sec Bonoan. Yung sinabi niyo po yung mga hindi priority ng administration, yung natapyas sa DPWH budget. But basically, what kind of projects are this? Ito po ba ay mga kalsada, basketball court, or ano po ba, sir?
Marami kasi yung mga local projects actually that are not ready for implementation, and it will take us some time anyway to make sure na may implement namin kaagad. So these are the things na nakita namin that I think we can postpone it for the time being. Yung mga projects na mostly local projects actually.
Roads.
Hindi, not necessarily roads, pati may mga buildings and other local infrastructure. There are some projects that are ambiguous also that we cannot immediately implement anyway. So yun ang mga
Ace Romero, Philippine Star.
May I just ask, because the President vowed to restore the budget cuts in DepEd, so how did we manage to do that?
We cannot, under the Constitution po, kung ano po yung napasa ng Kongreso, yun na po yun. We can only veto line items or projects, but we cannot add po. However, under the budget, may mga certain funds naman tayo dyan na pwede tayong mag-augment ng ating budget. For example, yung unprogrammed appropriations, yan ang magandang use ng UA. As long as meron tayong additional revenue from the DOF, we can actually augment or increase the budget of DepEd, specifically for computerization program.
So, kasi hindi naman pwede mag-realign yung executive, so
Hindi
pwede
na-
nating gawa ng parang that way.
Hindi na po, opo. Sa execution na lang po tayo, doon na lang po natin hahabulin yung mga kulang sa DepEd.
Kay Executive Secretary, given all these changes and measures implemented by the President, are you now confident that there will be no legal challenges to be triggered against the 2025 budget?
We are, yes, to answer your question, we are confident, but we cannot prevent. If there will be challenges that will be mounted by any quarter, who might still find this present budget as approved worthy of the challenge. But that is something that we cannot prevent. But I am confident that we work very hard on this and that our efforts will be validated by any kind of lack of challenge. So we are not going to encourage the challenge.
Salamat po.
Jinky Baticados, IBC 13.
Hi. Good morning, Secretaries. Let me just ask this po. Ano po yung pagkakaiba ng direct veto, conditional implementation, and general observation?
Yes po. Okay. Ang direct veto po, sandali lang, meron tayong notes dito. Ang direct veto po is tatanggalin natin yung mga exact programs and projects na nasa budget. Ang delete, as in mawawala na po siya. Even the amount, wala na rin po yan. So ibig sabihin po, yung 26 billion na natanggal sa DPWH, bababa po yung level ng budget natin ng by 26 billion pesos. Yun po ang ibig sabihin nun. So, yun po ang direct veto. ang conditional implementation po is hindi po natin kaagad-agad maibibigay sa kanila yung mga pondo dahil kailangan maglabas pa po tayo ng guidelines at implementing rules bago natin mailabas yan ng mga implementing agencies. So kailangan po nila yung gawin, like yung AKAP po, kailangan umupo po ang DSWD, DOLE at saka NEDA for the guidelines and whatever safeguards na mabuo po nila, bibigay po sa atin bago po natin ma-release yung pondo ng AKAP. Yun po ang conditional. Ang general observation po is we would just like to ensure na pag in-implement nila yung mga proyekto, consistent yan sa kung ano ang batas, kung ano yung mga mandato ng mga ahensya, ganun po yun. So yun po yung tatlo.
Last Secretary, tumaas po ng 373 billion ang unprogrammed appropriations. Paano tinitiyak ng pamahalaan na sumusunod ito sa mga probisyon ng konstitusyon na nagbabawal sa Kongreso na taasan ang mga appropriation na lampas sa orihinal na mungkahi ng Pangulo?
Total. Ang unprogrammed appropriations po kasi standby fund lang yan. Wala po yan katapat na revenue. Kanina po na-explain po ni Secretary Recto yan. So tuwing meron lang pong additional revenue tayong ma-realize from the Bureau of Treasury, doon lang po natin yan pwede i-release.
Thank you, Secretary.
Next question, Harley Valbuena, TCME.
Hi, good morning. May we know po kung sino yung nag-allocate ng items sa DPWH and unprogrammed funds na binito ng Pangulo? Are they part po nung original version ng National Expenditure Program na sinabit natin sa Congress? Or initiative na po ng Congress mismo?
Initiative na po, nakita na po namin siya sa BICAM report. Unfortunately po, hindi po namin alam kung kanino po yung mga yon. But it's a result of the bicameral conference. It's a collective decision of Congress. Of Congress, yeah, according to our Supreme Court Justice. Yes.
Let me just
Ang seryoso niyo naman kasi. Ano ba yan? Happy New Year, guys! We should be happy. We have a budget.
I just would like to give context to that question. Yung proposal of the budget comes or emanates from the executive. That is through the NEP, yung National Expenditure Program. Once that NEP is submitted to the lower house, the lower house will now schedule the hearings on the NEP. When the lower house finally approves or adds or subtracts to the NEP, but must conform to the limitation in the Constitution that it should not increase the lump amount, the entire amount, then it becomes a GAB, General Appropriations Bill, and this is the one that will be transmitted to the Senate for its own study of the proposal, of the budget proposal. And when the Senate shall have been done with its duty, there will now be a bicameral conference committee that will tackle this. Now, I don't know if you can find in the records of the bicameral report or the bicameral report who proposed those increases, but that is to be respected because they are the Congress. They are the Congress. And the final product is, of course, this GAA. And the GAA was submitted to the executive as an enrolled bill, and once it is submitted to the executive as an enrolled bill, the executive can no longer change that. Congress can no longer change that. So that is now what the President reviewed. And the President was personal and direct about the review and called on members of the Cabinet to contribute to the effort of looking at the budget. Now, with or without the calls for review, the President and the Cabinet went to that task. And I think we are happy about the result, and we have come up with this. So the approval of the budget by the chief executive happened before December 31. Today, that is. So that is the context.
Thank you, ES. Next question, Eden Santos, Net 25.
Good morning po. Clarification lang po, ibig sabihin yung 10 billion po na budget ng DepEd na ibalik po iyon para dun sa...
Hindi po, bawal po tayo magdagdag sa bicameral committee report. Kung ano po yung pinasa ng Kongreso, yun po. Hahanapan na lang po natin ng pondo sa pag-i-implement natin sa execution ng budget. Maybe Secretary Recto would like to.
Yes, that's correct. I think the President wants to prioritize the additional spending on education, which is found in the unprogrammed portion of the budget. So if there are excess revenues, we will immediately release that part of the budget. But I'd like to say also that it's the first time in our history that you have both the education sector and the capital outlay sector of the DPWH and the DOTR to hit 1 trillion pesos. So that would augur well for the economy's growth for 2025.
So meaning po, kaya tumaas yung budget ng DepEd dahil nabawasan yung DPWH para lang masabi na mas mataas.
Yung sinasabi po kasi natin na budget ng DepEd, it remained the same.
Opo.
Pero yung tumaas po kasi when we compute education sector po ang pinag-uusapan natin doon. It's not just the budget of the Department of Education because you also have to consider may CHED po, education din po yan. TESDA, education din po yan. Marami pong yung mga SUCs natin, marami pong mga ahensya ng gobyerno na education din naman po yung yung kanilang mandato. Kaya po, tumaas.
So ang malinaw po, gusto ba sumagot ni sandali, malinaw lang po, Secretary Pangandaman, stay po yung budget ng DepEd, kaya lang siya lumitaw na siya pa rin yung mataas kasi nabawasan yung budget ng DPWH. Yun po yung malinaw doon. Next question ko po, dun sa pagbababo ng ating 2025 national budget at naialis po yung mga naisingit dun po sa BICAM na wala sa NEP, wala po sa Congress at Senate version, wala naman po bang sumamang mga loob ng mga senador at kongresista na may mga project pong na